on a state of operational alert ahead and during the G20 summit in the national capital. India Today now gets you details of the Indian Air Force Operation Trishul that will coincide with the G20 summit. So IF, the Rafales, the Mirage 2000s, the Su-30 MKIs, they'll carry out a series of exercises not far from the line of control and the line of actual control. Not just the fighter jets, the Chinooks and the Apache helicopters will also be a part of these simulated war drills or exercises of Trishul during the G20 summit. From satellites to drones, the eye in the sky will remain active. The special forces are also a part of these exercises from the 4th to the 14th of September. The exercises will be in the northern sector. I quickly want to cut across to India Today's Manjeet Singh Negi and Shiv Arur for more on this big story, breaking first and exclusive on India Today. Manjeet, bring us details of the exercises that are planned between the 4th and the 14th of September.
Well, Gaurav, as you are aware that the G20 summit is the largest gathering of global leaders in such large number in the country in the last many decades. Around the same time of the meeting, an exercise, Trishul, in the northern sector along the border with China and Pakistan is being held. All major fleet fighter like Rafale, Mirage 2000 and Su-30 will be participating in the drill along the heavy lift transport aircraft and chopper including Chinook and Apache. In view of summit, fighter jet including Rafale have been put in the high alert at the operational readiness platform level to respond to any situation less than 6 minutes. And the Air Force has also activated the air bases in and around the national capital Delhi, including Hindon Air Base and also Ambala, Bhatinda, Adampur and Sirsa.
Multiple heads of state and government will be in India, including the US President. I quickly want to bring in India Today's Shiv Arur for more on this. Shiv, explain the timing and the thinking behind these exercises.
Well, as you know, complex war games and military exercises take many weeks to plan and many weeks to execute. There are a lot of moving parts. There is a great deal of detailing that goes into putting together a military exercise of this scale. And the Trishul exercise, by all accounts, is going to be a pretty extensive exercise. As India Today's Manjeet Negi has reported, the Air Force is going to be deploying almost all of its air assets, or at least airframes from all of its aircraft fleets at the border areas with China, okay, whether it is Ladakh or J&K or Punjab or Himachal. It's going to be a big exercise, but let's never forget that there is a great deal of messaging also that happens. The G20 also isn't something that was decided just a few weeks ago. It's been a long time in the planning phase as well. The dates have been known for a long time as well. So the Indian Air Force deciding to put up this offensive combat war game, military drill, whatever you want to call it, at a time when all these countries are going to be in India. There's still suspense over Xi Jinping's attendance, despite what Reuters and others are reporting. There's no official confirmation, but assuming that even if he doesn't come, the fact is the psychological effect of a vast military exercise on the China border at a time when the India-China standoff continues to be the largest military standoff in the world at this point of time, sends out a huge message as far as a country that will do what it takes to defend itself against an unpredictable and an unsavory neighbor that continues to have territorial ambitions. This is a country, remember, that literally all other, many members of the G20 have problems with, whether it is, whether it is the United States, whether it is Canada, whether it is the United Kingdom. All of these countries have their own individual issues with China, but it is India that is fighting China face to face, diplomatically and of course militarily as well. So this exercise, Trishul, by the Indian Air Force is one element of a game that India, in my opinion, has been late to come to, but is obviously playing it really, really well and playing it in a hard-nosed fashion. playing mind games, psychological operations, power projection, showing what the Indian Air Force is capable of, choosing to do it using air power, which the Indian Air Force and the Indian government know, the India enjoys a huge advantage on, especially in eastern Ladakh. So all of these factors go into, the subtle and overt interplay between two countries that could very well be at war. Thankfully, that's a remote prospect. But this war game certainly goes a great distance in telling both China and the world that India is not just any other country.
Oh, absolutely. And as the Air Force says, the more you swear in peace, the less you bleed at war. Very clearly, this is Chanakya Niti versus Sun Tzu's teachings. Now, China's so-called new standard map. The new standard map of 2023 that shows parts of Ladakh and Arunachal Pradesh as Chinese territory sparked off an angry war of words between the opposition Congress and the ruling BJP at the center. The Chinese map, seen as part of Chinese psychological warfare, also shows Taiwan and the 9-dash line areas as Chinese territory, sparking off angry protests even in Taiwan, Indonesia, Nepal, for example. Now, in India, Rahul Gandhi has accused the Narendra Modi government of being economical with the truth on China, and the BJP has hit back, accusing Rahul Gandhi and the Congress of being pro-China.
Even as more than 50,000 Indian and Chinese troops face off in Ladakh since the summer of 2020, an ugly political battle has escalated over China's cartographic aggression along the LOC. China's state-run Global Times released the 2023 edition of what it claimed was China's standard map prepared by the Chinese Ministry of Natural Resources. The map stakes claim to the island of Taiwan and the 9-dash line claiming large parts of the South China Sea and parts of Ladakh and Arunachal Pradesh. Congress party's Rahul Gandhi launched a frontal attack on the Narendra Modi government on China's aggression on the map.
जो प्रधानमंत्री ने कहा है कि लद्दाख में 1 इंच जमीन नहीं गई है, ये सरासर झूठ है। पूरा लद्दाख जानता है कि चाइना ने हमारी जमीन हड़प ली है, तो उसके बारे में भी प्रधानमंत्री को कुछ कहना चाहिए।
Union Minister Kiran Rijiju, who is the Member of Parliament from Arunachal Pradesh, hit back at the Congress, accusing Rahul Gandhi of speaking China's language.
Why Congress is so much excited about Chinese publication of maps and inclusion of Arunachal and Aksai Chin in Chinese territory? It has been happening for decades. And suddenly, Chinese action and Rahul Gandhi's statement are all going in the same direction. Now, they are speaking the Chinese language.
Congress leader in Lok Sabha, Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary, rushed to Rahul Gandhi's defense on the Wayanad MP's repeated statements on China.
राहुल जी आज से नहीं, ये बात राहुल जी बराबर कहते आते हैं। हमारे रक्षा मंत्री जी की वो टिप्पणी को आप लोग संज्ञान में लाई। यथा पूर्व स्थिति को हमें लाना चाहिए। तो यथा पूर्व स्थिति मतलब कि क्या होता है? जो स्टेटस को थी उसको वापस लाना, मतलब स्टेटस को नहीं है।
Union Minister Dharmendra Pradhan too launched a frontal attack on Rahul Gandhi, accusing the Congress of a pro-China stance, ignoring India's defense capabilities.
राहुल गांधी अपनी मानसिक दिवालियापन की बार-बार परिचय दे चुके हैं। उनके सदैव एक प्रो चाइना स्टैंड रहा है। उनको भारत की व्यवस्था से ज़्यादा चाइना की व्यवस्था, देश के बाहर देश को अपमानित करने की उनकी प्रवृत्ति, उससे वो बाज नहीं आ रहे हैं।
The Ministry of External Affairs also issued a statement rejecting the false Chinese territorial claims. The government in a statement said, "We have today lodged a strong protest through diplomatic channels with the Chinese side on the so-called 2023 standard map of China that lays claim to India's territory. We reject these claims as they have no basis. Such steps by the Chinese side only complicates the resolution of the boundary question. Union Minister Prahlad Joshi too targeted Rahul Gandhi and the Congress for ignoring the MEA statement and accused the Congress of a historic pro-China stance.
तो मैं राहुल गांधी को सिंपैथी व्यक्त करता हूं कि लद्दाख में हुआ और उनको चाइनीज़ के मैप के विश्वास है। भारत के हमारे एक्सटर्नल अफेयर्स मंत्रालय जो बोल रहे हैं उसके ऊपर, हमारे डिफेंस फोर्स जो बोल रहे हैं, उन लोग जो बोलते हैं उसके ऊपर उनका कोई विश्वास नहीं है।
On ground, India and China remain locked in a deadly standoff. There have been 18 rounds of talks at the level of corps commanders, and even on the sidelines of the recent BRICS summit, Prime Minister Modi and the Chinese President Xi Jinping instructed their officials to speed up disengagement at the friction points. But the political face-off is only set to intensify. Bureau Report, India Today.
Joining me with the latest on India First is Adil Singh Boparai, leader and spokesperson of the Congress. Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni is former Chief of Staff of Ladakh Corps, and Sushant Sareen is a senior fellow at the Observer Research Foundation. Adil Singh Boparai, respond to what the three union ministers are saying, accusing Rahul Gandhi and the Congress of speaking China's language.
Well, first and foremost, Gaurav, at the outset, the Congress party condemns China's belligerence and their repeated attempts which constitute an assault on our sovereignty. Arunachal was, is, and will always remain an integral part of India. Let me make it very clear on behalf of the Congress. The Chinese claims are factually incorrect and have no basis in history. Having said this, now let me make the Congress party's position categorically clear. We stand with India, and today Indians and our self-respect and our self-dignity is at stake. How can a foreign country claim an integral part to be theirs? In fact, we in the Congress and we in India want the government of India's response to be vociferous and robust. We don't want our government's response to be tepid and meek.
But tell me something, is this the first time, as Kiran Rijiju asked, Union Minister Kiran Rijiju asked, is this the first time China has done this? You've seen the response of the Ministry of External Affairs. Do you find that inadequate?
We find it unbecoming and we find it completely inadequate. And the fact is, these three ministers are nothing more than glorified clerks. Today, the fact of the matter is, why have we had, I ask you this question, Gaurav, why have we had 19 rounds of discussions with the Chinese? Why are we seeking status quo ante? The reason why somebody seeks status quo ante is that the status quo has been disturbed. This is plain English. You and I understand, your viewers understand. That means post-April 2022, the Chinese disturbed the status quo. Okay. It is a matter of fact, and unless and until somebody is wearing a BJP lens, well, I don't want to get into that. But any objective person will agree that the Chinese have made multiple incursions along the LAC.
Let me get Sushant Sareen
to respond to this. There are some BJP sympathizers.
Let's keep this one. Let's take this step by step. You've made a point. Sushant Sareen, is there merit? Is there
we had 19 rounds of talks?
Okay, so you've made that point. Sushant Sareen, merit in Rahul Gandhi's criticism and the Congress criticism that the government response is weak. Point one. Point two, restore status quo ante. If it hadn't been disturbed, why have we had 19 rounds of talks? Your take on this as an analyst, sir.
So, I find it difficult to believe when seasoned political leaders talk about there should be a vociferous response. Now, what does Mr. Boparai actually mean by a vociferous response? Should we give maa behan ki gali and that will be a vociferous response? The foreign minister of India, the external affairs minister, has said that this is an absurdity on the part of the Chinese. He said that just because you make a claim on a map does not make that claim true. We have rejected it. We've issued a démarche. What else do you want us to do? That is the diplomatic way of doing things. Unless, of course, you say that, okay, fine, we challenge Xi Jinping to come and have a dangal with us. That is not how diplomacy is done, is it? Is this the first time the Chinese have come out with a map? Now, the problem is that the Chinese have come out with a map which has claims which not just India, other countries are also protesting, and India has protested, and India has rejected those claims. And this is not the first time that the Chinese have claimed either Arunachal or parts of Ladakh as part of their territory.
Okay.
Right? So, one is that rejection. The second point, which Mr. Boparai says, is partly correct. Yes, the status quo has been disturbed. The status quo has been disturbed in the sense that there were forces which were many kilometers away from the LAC. They have brought their forces much closer to the LAC, in some parts very, very close, and which is why you have an eyeball to eyeball confrontation. That is a change in the status quo. These are very, very sparsely areas where the deployments were very sparse. Deployments were in reserve areas, in back areas, right?
Let me get General Kulkarni.
The depth areas.
Let me get General Kulkarni.
Taken the forces. 1 second, Gaurav.
Okay.
You've suddenly taken the forces right up to almost on an eyeball to eyeball, and that has changed the status quo. That is what we are saying, that you need to disengage, you need to de-escalate, and you need to pull back, de-induct your troops. Now, that is the three-stage thing which India has suggested to them. And finally, on the claims of Mr. Rahul Gandhi, it is true that China has occupied thousands of kilometers of territory in Ladakh. But he should also tell us when these thousands of kilometers were occupied. How many thousands or hundreds were occupied in 2013 in Demchok and those areas? How many thousands were occupied in Aksai Chin in the 50s and the 60s? Please tell us all of that.
Okay, quickly, Adil Singh Boparai, you want to respond to this point? 2 quick points before I bring in General Kulkarni for a military perspective. China came out with maps even before 2014. India has responded in a similar way. Before 2014, China's occupied territory or tried to do salami slicing of Indian territory even before 2014.
I think, Gaurav, and I have the highest of respect for Mr. Serene, I don't think this is an us versus them issue. Let's be very clear. This is about Indian land, Indian soil. Unfortunately, today there is an ecosystem which wants to protect Mr. Modi's image of a strong man. And in that pursuit of protecting Mr. Modi's image of a strong man, that ecosystem is unwittingly giving a clean chit to the Chinese. That is the contentious issue here, number one. Number two, Mr. Modi was economical with the truth. He was economical with the truth in May 2020 when he said that there is no incursion. There have been incursion along multiple points in the Ladakh sector. Number three, the BJP's own MP from Arunachal, Tapir Gao, this is his public statement. He has said that the Chinese have constructed a bridge 35 kilometers inside Indian territory.
Okay.
For how long, and I say this as an Indian citizen, for how long will you protect Mr. Modi's image?
Okay.
Let's at least protect this country's sovereignty. That is more important.
Let me get General Kulkarni to respond. You've raised very specific charges. General Kulkarni, you know the lay of the land better than anybody on this panel. And I want you to tell us what the truth is. Has India given a clean chit to China, or has the Prime Minister given a clean chit to China? Point one, construction of a bridge 35 kilometers inside Indian territory. And is the effort to protect the Prime Minister's image, or is this all about India taking on China, or the lack of it as the Congress puts it?
Thank you, Gaurav. At the very outset, I must tell you, probably the perceptions people have not understood. Even that member of parliament from BJP is absolutely wrong. First and foremost, the bridge that has been constructed 35 kilometers inside Indian territory, what he claims, is definitely inside a 40,000 square kilometers that is under Chinese occupation is ours. And therefore, that 35-kilometer that bridge that he's talking about is in the general area of Pengangsu and beyond, which is under the Chinese occupation. The same member of parliament had also stated that there was a village that had come up in Arunachal at a place called, Longju. And that area which they're talking about, he's absolutely right. Nobody is right and nobody is wrong. Why? That village has been there since 1959. We lost that area in 1959. Now, if the member of parliament or the BJP or whichever party that he belongs to says that the Chinese have constructed a village, it's incorrect. And right also, right? Because yes, the territory belongs to us, but the territory is under Chinese occupation since 1959.
Okay.
Similarly, it happens in Pangang. So it is this kind of a thing. What I personally would say, these are things which are being targeted for no rhyme or reason, and for simple reason. If anybody understands what is a Johnson line, what is a McCarthy-McDonald line, since 1920, now the Russians at that point of time had always stated that Tibet, that thing, Aksai chain is part of Tibet.
Yes.
China claimed that Aksai chain is part of Hotan County, that of Xinjiang. So there is so much of perceptual differences that are existing, and therefore it will be incorrect. Now, this particular map, I go along with Mr. Sareen for a very simple reason. They have been publishing. Firstly, the timing of this map by the Chinese is with a mischief behind it. And that mischief is they know very well what's happened, what is likely to happen at G20.
So if the Chinese are playing mischief, is there merit then, Adil Singh Boparai? Chinese have come up with maps so many times before and after 2014. The current timing, General Kulkarni sees this as mischief. If the Chinese are playing psychological mind games, should the Congress party or a very senior Congress party leader like Rahul Gandhi actually take that forward, as Kiran Rijiju puts it, speaking China's language?
I find the minister's statement to be bizarre. What is the Congress party saying? The Congress party is saying that India's response has to be more emphatic. Teach the Chinese a lesson in the language which they understand. So how are we supporting the Chinese? Somebody has to be intellectually innocent like Mr. Rijiju to discern that we are supporting the Chinese. Our statement is categorically clear. The Chinese are being belligerent, the Chinese are being aggressive, the Chinese are being mischievous. Hence, your response has to be strong. Point number one. Point number two, and I don't want to wear my hat as a spokesperson, but as an Indian citizen, Gaurav, I find a very, very serious issue here. The ecosystem, which is trying to, by default, protect the Prime Minister's image, is emboldening the Chinese. The Chinese are adept at psychoanalysis. The Chinese indeed are playing mind games. And they've realized that the current dispensation will go to any levels to safeguard the image of a particular individual.
How does that square up with 50,000 troops being deployed? You know, since we're talking as Indians, I really want to understand. How are we, you know, just compare the two. Just compare the two. 640 square kilometers lost, according to the Shamsaran report, pre-2014. Just compare the two. To 50,000 troops being deployed right now, to Kailash Hills being occupied, to your missiles being deployed, to your aircraft being deployed, all of that happening now. How is, I just want to understand Indian to Indian. Adil Singh Boparai, no politics.
I'll tell you. According to the MEA, the Indians and the Chinese had an excellent meeting at the BRICS in South Africa. 4 days later, and a week before the G20 meeting, the Chinese come out with a provocative map. What does that mean? Number one. Number two, we lost 20 of our brave hearts. We lost 20 of our brave hearts to Chinese mischief, to Chinese aggression, to Chinese provocative measures. And the Prime Minister says that there's been no incursion. If there was no incursion, how did we lose our brave hearts? Obviously, the Chinese entered into our territory.
Okay. Sushant Sareen, you want to respond to that?
That's the problem.
Both the aspects of that BRICS pull aside.
By supporting something which is so right in your face.
Okay. Sushant Sareen.
And the BJP, I will go by what the BJP MP had said. That is his constituency in Arunachal Pradesh.
Okay.
I'm sure he knows the constituency better than me and Mr. Sareen put together.
Okay. Sushant Sareen.
I wish Mr. Boparai would show similar faith in BJP MPs in other parts of the country, but let's come back to the substantive points which he has raised, questions which he's raised. Number one, I think he's misrepresenting when he says that the Ministry of External Affairs statement after the BRICS meeting was that it was an excellent meeting. I don't think that is the way the Ministry of External Affairs explained that meeting. The diplomatic language which they used is very, very clear to people who understand diplomacies. They said it was a very candid and frank meeting in which they discussed various issues. That is where they left it, right? There was nothing more. There was no use of the word excellent meeting as Mr. Boparai is suggesting. Secondly, I think it would be very helpful if Mr. Boparai was to specify what exactly he means by strong action. Does he mean that India should declare war right now? Does he mean that India should take military operations against the Chinese right now? I think he needs to define what he means by a strong response. Number three, and frankly, Gaurav, I think that the response has been fairly strong given the kind of circumstances which exist in not just Ladakh but also in Arunachal. And number three, on this whole issue, you keep repeating the same thing over and over and over again. You take a statement of the Prime Minister. He was very specifically talking about the clash which happened in Galwan. And it is very clear to anybody who has studied what has happened, there are satellite imagery and everything, that the Chinese tried to intrude. They were expelled. We did lose 20 of our soldiers, but the Chinese were not able to occupy anything. Now, I don't know what exactly Mr. Bopara is talking about. The Prime Minister's statement was very clear. It was on a specific charge of Galwan. Okay. He was not talking about the other areas. There are other areas where the Chinese have come to positions where they've obstructed Indian patrols from going into areas where normally Indian patrols used to go to. And personally speaking, I have a big problem with this whole concept of buffer zones.
Absolutely.
What does buffer zone mean when when I claim a certain territory to be mine? I don't believe in this buffer zone concept. But then the buffer zone also holds true for the Chinese. Even they can't patrol in areas which they claim to be their territory. So it's not a satisfactory solution according to me, but it is what it is.
Fair enough. The Chinese also, and General Kulkarni, we'll have to take this debate to another day because I've run out of time on this part. But from what my sources in the government, especially in the army, tell me that the Chinese are also unable to patrol up to their claim line. So it's a buffer zone. When those who say that buffer zone is an Indian territory, well, Chinese are also not able to patrol up to their claim line. So if that brings peace and loss of life, stops loss of life, is that an acceptable solution as of now? But my last thought, as I wind down the show, at least for today, whether it's the government or the opposition, can every Indian speak in one voice when it comes to taking on an expansionist China? Because for all of us, it's after all India first. Can we do that? That's my prayer. That's my hope. For joining me here on India Today, gentlemen, many thanks. A quick break. Abha Bakaya next with Business Today. Stay with us.
Again, India Today wins Best Channel of the Year.
Thank you very much, viewers, for making the India Today group the most awarded TV news network at the ENVA Awards 2023.
Why is our G20 presidency different? Because, there have been other countries who have done G20 for a variety of reasons. The first reason is actually the chair. The fact is, India has assumed the G20 presidency at a moment when India is mattering more and more to the world. It is mattering more to its world, partly because of our economic achievements, that from number 12 or number 10, we have now become the number 5 economy. It is mattering because today, whether it's technology, it could be digital, it could be our talent. I gave you Chandrayaan as an example, but you can see it in other ways as well. That we are today recognized as essential to the global workplace, to the global talent pool. It matters because we also today have demonstrated a capability. We have demonstrated a capability of helping other countries. I spoke to you about vaccine supplies, but you can see even today in some country has an earthquake. Turkey had an earthquake earlier this year. We were among the first countries who were able to send a contingent out there to rescue people.
My colleague Pramod Madhav in fact spoke with an ISRO director, Raja Rajan, over Aditya L1 mission and why Sriharikota was chosen as the launch site.
This is the area in Sriharikota from where the actual magnificent launch occurs, and we have the director of this place. Thank you so much for speaking to us, sir. So this is a place called where thousands of people come over, and we are extremely happy to see the rocket being launched in a beautiful manner. But why Sriharikota? What is the importance of this place, sir?
Yeah, it's well known. Sriharikota is situated in the east coast of India. As Earth rotates from west to east, any vehicle when it is going towards being launched, when a eastward mission or station, we are importing already a velocity, and it is somewhat near about the equator, so the maximum velocity that is possible, and with sufficient area that is already provided. Sriharikota is an island away from the mainland, so that gives added safety features, and we have around 44,000 acres of land, which gives a very good place to launch a vehicle in a secured manner and in an isolated place.
So we have the model of PSLV over here, and this has been it's been coined as the workhorse of ISRO. So when you are launching this, is there any specificity that you take care of, and what kind of time period you take, and what are the parts in which, what are the engines used in this one?
See, this is a 1:20 model of PSLV, where the 6 strap-ons are of S9 motors, or we call this motor is kept 6 motors, and then we have a first stage of PS1 of S139 solid motors. Then we have PS2 of 37.5 ton liquid stage, which is built at LPSC and IPRC. Then we have a PS3 stage comes here for a third stage motor, solid motor, which is realized at VSSC, and then motor is cast at SJC Shah. And then we have a PS4 engine here, which is also a liquid engine, which is a most trusted engine, which finally imports the vehicle into this. And we have a heat shield here, which gives a 3 meter where we can assemble houses the spacecraft. And once it crosses the atmosphere, the heat shield comes off, and the spacecraft is propelled back. Here in SJC Shah, we cast both the S139 and PS3 motor case here, and sometimes, depending upon the schedule, some of the segments of the PS0 motors, 6 motors has been realized at SJC Shah. Nowadays, we have taken action. All these motors are realized through industries, hot shell from VSSC design. Then comes. Once the assembly starts, usually it ranges from minimum 35 days to 50 days. In that time span, we assemble the vehicle and make it ready, depending upon the launch pad. Whether it's first launch pad or second launch pad, we assemble the vehicle.
Hello and welcome. You're with us here on Business Today. I'm Abha Bakaya. Here are the day's top stories. Adani Group hit by a second set of market manipulation allegations in 8 months. George Soros-funded group accuses Adani's of violating minimum public shareholding laws using opaque Mauritius-based funds. Adani Group calls these allegations recycled and malicious. Indian economy expands at its fastest in a year. Growth rate clocks in at 7.8% in April to June, beats China by a large margin. Agri sector leads the charge. Big setback for world's second largest economy, China. Global rating agency Fitch cuts China's 2023 GDP growth forecast by a whopping 80 basis points to 4.8%. Joins S&P in slashing growth estimates, blames weakening consumption, sluggish exports, and a real estate meltdown. Markets end in the red with Sensex down 256 and Nifty down 94 points. Investors wait for GDP growth numbers. Nervousness as Fitch cuts China growth numbers. August is the worst month for markets since February. Elon Musk makes the next big announcement for X.com social media app to get voice and video calls feature. No phone number required, your Twitter login to be your calling card. Reliance Industries' own Viacom 18 wins BCCI media rights for domestic and international games to be played in India for the next 5 years. Pays around 6,000 crore rupees for media rights for both television as well as digital platforms. Months after a report by short seller Hindenburg that alleged stock manipulation by the Adani Group, a new report by the George Soros-funded Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project has leveled fresh charges against the conglomerate. The latest report, being termed as Hindenburg 2.0, claimed that associates of Vinod Adani, elder brother of the Adani Group chairman Gautam Adani, secretly invested millions of dollars in Adani Group companies via opaque Mauritius funds. The report claims this flouted minimum public shareholding norms and is not just illegal but amounts to share price manipulation. The Adani Group has rejected the allegations, calling them recycled and malicious.
For India's second richest man, it's Hindenburg all over again. For the second time in 8 months, his $130 billion group is under attack. And this time by a group backed by George Soros, a multi-billionaire known for his anti-India views. According to the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project, OCCRP, a body of investigating journalists funded by Soros-run Open Society foundations, Gautam Adani's family allegedly invested hundreds of millions of dollars in its own publicly traded companies via opaque Mauritius funds. The report claims the overseas funds obscured the involvement of alleged business partners of the Adani family. The report focuses on the period 2012 to 2018 and says Adani associates controlled an undisclosed and complex web of offshore entities in Mauritius to manipulate the share price of its group companies. It alleges that on at least 2 occasions, investors bought and sold Adani stock through such offshore structures. The report also alleges that 2 sets of books were kept, one for regulators and the other for insider investors. Another allegation is breach of minimum public shareholding norms by the promoters of the company. The OCCRP report also claims to have identified 2 individuals who allegedly spearheaded the investments in Adani Group companies. Nasser Ali Shaban Ali from the UAE and the Chang Chung Ling from Taiwan. According to the report, were Bermuda-based associates of Vinod Adani, Gautam Adani's brother. The 2 ran the Global Opportunities Fund, which according to the report was used to amass and trade large positions in shares of the Adani Group. Importantly, the report refers to Ali and Chang as 2 of the most significant investors in the Adani Group. In early 2017, the 2 reportedly controlled at least 13% of the free float in 3 of the 4 Adani companies listed at the time, including the group's flagship Adani Enterprises. This would imply that the Adani family held more than 75% stake in the company, a violation of public shareholding rules. The report also has details purportedly from a Department of Revenue intelligence probe. The OCCRP report says Vinod Adani took control of 2 companies based in Dubai and Mauritius from Ali and Chung Ling in 2010. The Dubai-based company Electrogen Infra acted as a middleman between Chinese power companies and various Adani projects. The Mauritius-based company Electrogen Infra Holdings was allegedly a financial front. According to the report, the Dubai company transferred nearly $900 million to the Mauritius company between 2011 and 2013. Of this, $100 million were, according to OCCRP, used by Vinod Adani to trade in Adani Group and other company stocks. The Adani Group has strongly refuted all fresh allegations, calling them recycled. A company statement said that the latest report was yet another bid by Soros-funded interests to revive the Hindenburg report. The Adani Group said the claims are based on closed cases from a decade ago. when the DRI had probed allegations of over-invoicing, overseas transfer of funds, related party transactions and investments through FPIs. The statement added that an independent adjudicating authority and an appellate tribunal had both confirmed that there was no overvaluation and that the transactions were in accordance with applicable law. It added that the matter attained finality in March 2023 when the Supreme Court of India ruled in the Adani's favor. The impact on the equity markets was, however, immediate, with all 10 Adani stocks ending in the red. Hindenburg 2.0 shaved more than 35,000 crore rupees off the market capitalization of the group. Bureau Report, Business Today Television.
10 out of 10. That's how many Adani Group stocks ended in the red today. For investors who had picked up Adani stocks on the cheap after Hindenburg allegations, could this be the start of another nightmarish fall? My colleague Sakshi Batra spoke to market analyst Vineet Bolinchkar about what investors should expect.
Mr. Bolinchkar, I wanted to understand from you, how are you really looking at the fresh allegations made by OCCRP from a stock market standpoint, and should investors be really concerned?
And any shareholder activist could have presented the data that they had to the Indian courts, right? And so far the Indian courts have given a clean chit. Now you have another body which is called the OCCRP, which is related to the same person, that is George Soros, okay, coming in and making allegations. Why are they not submitting the proof to the agencies out here or the regulators? So just merely making public allegations in media does not really hold light. And if you go to see from the business point of view or the promoter's point of view, they have been under scrutiny for the last 7-8 months from every quarter, from the regulators, from the tax regulators, from international agencies, from credit rating agencies, and all have affirmed that the business fundamentals are absolutely sound. And if you look at the debt to EBITDA basis, it's only 2.5 to 3. So, within 3 years, they can just, their massive debt can be simply paid off purely from the business profits that are run. So we do not find too much merit in what is being said. Having said that, what happens is that George Soros has such a big clout in the international investing market that even the hunky-dory who have lost a lot of money, in the previous rout of the Adani stocks, would want to stay away. So my advice to all investors is that until we don't get a clean chit absolutely from the Supreme Court of India, don't venture into these stocks. You may buy them a little bit higher, but just be out of this mess as far as my advice is concerned.
So, as far as the allegations are concerned, let me ask you, if you've read through some of the report and some of the, allegations that they've made, are these the same allegations made previously in the Hindenburg research report? Is there anything new to the allegations that they've added?
So, they just made allegations last time. Now they've given us some kind of a path of the trail of the money. So, if they have such convoluted details available with them, why don't you produce the documentary evidence in the court when it went to the courts of India, right? It was not bought, it was not substantiated, you had an ample time window to do it, they've not done it. So, you can clearly make out from this that it is more motivated from external factors, and, if you want to join the dots, I can do it for you. The Haifa port, when the Adanis won, this string of events started. And recently, after Prime Minister Modi had gone to Greece, and Adani, there were talks in the market that he would become another 3 ports, right? So again, these news articles have started to come out. So, there is some kind of a correlation with all this that is happening. And that is really, really discouraging for shareholders of not only the Adani, but also for the Indians at large.
Equity markets traded lower today ahead of the GDP data for June. The indices were dragged by banking, financial, consumer goods and energy stocks. Sensex was down 256 points at close, and the Nifty moved up 94 points, lower, of course, in today's session, down about 0.5%. Top gainers, Jio Financial Services, Maruti Suzuki, HDFC Life, Cipla and Tata Steel. While on the downside, Adani Enterprises, of course, BPCL, Adani Ports, Britannia and Eicher Motors. While tech giants Apple and Samsung have chosen not to participate, the government's new PLI scheme for IT hardware is returning big dividends, with 32 other top global and domestic firms applying for the incentives. These include giants like HP, Dell, Lenovo and Acer. How significant the move is for Indian manufacturing and the IT sector? Here's India Today Group's Aishwarya Paliwal in an exclusive conversation with Minister for Electronics and IT, Ashwini Vaishnav.
One of the biggest things that the Prime Minister has been speaking about is Make in India, and the kind of response that the government has got for the PLI in hardware is a testimony to that. Sir, it really shows that Make in India is making its mark, and the kind of conversations we have had. Do you believe in years to come, India will actually become number one when we talk about manufacturing?
Definitely, India is emerging as a very important, very trusted global value chain partner. And thanks to our Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji's very far-reaching vision, in which he has placed India as a trusted global value chain partner, and the response that we have seen in the PLI IT hardware, that's a testimony to Prime Minister's vision. 32 applications have already come. The applications will close tonight, and we have met all the applicants. They are extremely enthusiastic about producing in India, and the value addition is likely to be anywhere from 35% to 48%. And once the semiconductor manufacturing also comes online, which is likely to happen in a few months from now, these chips will be used in the PCs and laptops made in India. So that will take the value addition to anywhere up to 75%. So it's a very big success, and I'm very happy with the response which the industry is giving.
So for the common man, do you believe it will give employment also, and it will make these items cheaper also? It will be a win-win, for the consumers also?
Yes. By this PLI scheme, the expected incremental production is 3,35,000 crore. It's a huge number. The expected incremental investment is 2,430 crore. And the expected direct employment, for every direct employment there are 2 to 3 indirect employment. The expected incremental direct employment is 75,000. Thank you.
Very clearly, the IT Minister saying that this will not only give boost to the manufacturing, but also will give boost to India's economy. And in years to come, definitely we will see all these items, be it laptops, be it hardwares, becoming cheaper in India as the manufacturing will be within the country. With camera person Alok Das, this is Aishwarya Paliwal reporting for India Today.
Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll delve into the economic performance of India during the first quarter of FY24 and take experts' perspectives as well. Do stay tuned.
वक्त ली मेरिडियन होटल के पास मौजूद हूं और यहां पर सुरक्षा की तैयारियों को लेकर के पूरी यहां पर टीमें पहुंची हुई हैं, जहां आप देखिए कि जो गाड़ियां हैं जिसमें G20 लिखा हुआ है, उन गाड़ियों को यहां पर लाया गया है और ये रिहर्सल किया जा रहा है कि एयरपोर्ट से जब विदेशी मेहमान उतरेंगे तो उनको होटल तक लाने में किसी भी तरीके की दिक्कत ना हो। इसको लेकर के जो सुरक्षा एजेंसियां हैं वो लगातार यहां पर प्रैक्टिस कर रही हैं। प्रैक्टिस का मकसद ये है कि इस तरीके के कदम बढ़ाए जाएं जिससे भी किसी भी विदेशी मेहमान को किसी भी तरीके की दिक्कत न हो। जो सुरक्षा है वो मल्टी लेयर सुरक्षा तैयार की गई है, जिसमें एनएसजी के जवान के साथ साथ जो पैरामिलिट्री फोर्सेस के जवान हैं वो भी मौजूद रहेंगे। इसके साथ ही जो कारगेड होगा उसमें इस तरीके के एम्बुलेंस भी साथ में चलती रहेंगी और एम्बुलेंस को भी साथ में तैनात किया गया है। सुरक्षा बलों को इस तरीके से तैयार किया गया है कि वो जो विदेशी मेहमान आए उनको एयरपोर्ट से होटल तक जिस तरीके से लाया जाए उसमें किसी भी तरीके से मेहमान नवाजी या फिर उनकी सुरक्षा में किसी भी तरीके की दिक्कत न हो। इसके साथ आपको बता दें कि 23 ऐसे महत्वपूर्ण होटल दिल्ली एनसीआर में हैं जिनको की पूरी तरीके से सुरक्षा के हिसाब से तैयार किया गया है। साथ ही एनसीआर में भी 9 ऐसे होटल हैं जिनको की विदेशी मेहमानों के लिए सुरक्षा के लिहाज से तैयार किया गया है। मैं इस वक्त ग्राउंड जीरो पर मौजूद हूं और आपको दिखा रहा हूं पूरी सिचुएशन कि किस तरीके से कमांडोज जो हैं वो अलग अलग जगहों पर तैनात किए गए हैं और उनकी सुरक्षा विदेशी मेहमानों की कैसे होगी उसके लिए बाकायदे यहां कार का जो काफिला है जो उनके साथ चलेगा उसकी पूरी तैयारी इस वक्त की जा रही है।
Air quality today. In Delhi, 125. In Mumbai, 73. In Kolkata, 150. In Bangalore, 60. In Chennai, 49. In Hyderabad, 132.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com. Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com.
Welcome back. The Indian economy has registered its fastest growth in a year on the first quarter of this fiscal. Data released by the National Statistical Office shows GDP growing at 7.8% in April to June this year. Though the figure is much lower than last year, it's also much higher than the growth in the preceding quarter. Figures also show a good uptick in the agri sector as compared to last year. However, indicators for other crucial sectors like manufacturing, industry and services are considerably below the previous year's figures. Even the capital formation growth this year is lower than last year. So what do these GDP numbers mean? How has the high base effect skewed the data? Is the comparison to last year even fair? These are some of the questions Managing Editor of BTTV, Siddharth Zarabi, posed to the Chief Economist of ICRA and Bank of Baroda. Listen in.
7.8% GDP growth in the first quarter versus 13.1% a year ago in the same period. This is bang in line with the estimate that we told you viewers. GVA growth for the same quarter, 7.8 versus 11.9% a year ago. Farm sector growth 3.5% versus 2.4% a year ago. I'm going to quickly rattle through some of the numbers. This big number right up there on the screen. Mining sector growth at 5.8% versus 9.5% a year ago. Manufacturing growth at 4.7% versus 6.1%. The big number, of course, being 7.8%, the fastest in 4 quarters. Construction sector growth at 7.9% versus 16% in the same period a year ago. So we have construction, we have manufacturing, we have mining, we have farm sector, and we have the big number on the screen. Quick reaction, Aditi, as I get more fine print.
So Siddharth, I've just glanced at the release, and I think on a sectoral basis, there are 3 or 4 sectors which are standing out where the numbers that have come in from the NSO are below our forecasts. One is the trade, hotel and transport component, which is that big component of services where we expected that a later recovery to really push a very high double-digit growth. So that's come in at a healthy number, but definitely below what we were expecting. Secondly, even the manufacturing GVA growth is not as healthy as what we thought based on the margin benefit that both Madan and I were talking about. And I think the third is agriculture, where the number has come in a little bit below what we were penciling in. But overall, I would say 7.8%, very close to what the MPC had projected. And quite a good number, I would say. It's below what I was penciling in. So certainly I'm not going to be looking at revising my full year growth number very much because of this. But I would say overall, still we remain concerned that there would be a dip in the pace of YOY growth going forward, because as we were discussing, this number that's been pushed up by the base effect.
Okay, 2 more data points as I get them. One is private final consumption growth at 6% versus 19.8%. So 6 versus 19.8, that's private final consumption. Capital formation only at 8% versus 20.4%. Government final consumption growth at a negative 0.7% versus 1.8% a year ago. Madan, your reaction to these numbers that you are hearing from me?
So overall, if you're looking in terms of the GDP growth numbers, I think more or less on expected lines. So I think 8.1 to 7.8 doesn't really make much difference. I think in agriculture, we were looking at something higher, but we get a number of 3.5% here. But I think the interesting thing which you pointed out is in terms of consumption, because I think that's something which has been irking us. We've always been talking in terms of consumption picking up. And there's this question of whether we'll have to wait for the second quarter or the third quarter for consumption. So I think it does look like that cumulatively high inflation which we have seen over the last 3 years is something which has probably come in the way of consumption.
Do you think we can expect more fiscal administrative measures to ensure that prices remain calm and don't cause a bigger political problem?
So to start with, I mean, if we look at where we are with the monsoon right now, I think even with a 20% surplus in monsoon rainfall in September, we'll barely be at the lower end of what is considered normal for the entire monsoon season. So, we should probably be prepared now that this is going to be below normal monsoon. And I mean, it's been erratic in any case. It's really not been a great distribution so far. And I think we're going to end up with a below normal monsoon this season. Now, given the kind of supply-demand dynamics that are driving food inflation, I should certainly hope that there are fiscal measures to address some of these issues rather than leaving it to monetary policy, which is going to be extremely blunt as a tool to dealing with the kind of things that are pushing up inflation right now. So I do hope that there will be some measures that the government will be bringing in, and they've been very proactive so far in any case. So I don't think that this hope is necessarily misplaced.
That's how we leave it on the show tonight. Thanks for watching.
A superstar, yet people's man. A stardom so high, yet rooted. Shah Rukh Khan, one name, a million emotions.
Sir, I want to hug you, please. Sir, please. Sir, please.
SRK has been ruling showbiz for over 3 decades now. But what makes him stand out from other superstars is his golden heart and humility. Yes, not just in India, but even fans across the globe go berserk with just one glimpse of SRK. The chants of his name echoes everywhere he makes his appearance, and that comes with years of kindness that he has spread over the course. Shah Rukh Khan, through his NGO, Me Foundation, works towards betterment and upliftment of the society. The superstar came forward to even help the family of Anjali Singh, the 20-year-old girl who lost her life as she was dragged under a car for several kilometers. SRK's organization donated money so that the deceased family can manage their expenses during these tough times. A source revealed, and we quote, Shah Rukh Khan's Me Foundation has donated an undisclosed amount to the family of Anjali Singh. Anjali was the sole breadwinner of the family, which includes her mother and siblings. The aid by Me Foundation aims to help the family, especially the mother, with her health issues while providing relief to Anjali's siblings. Me Foundation is a philanthropic foundation and is named after Shah Rukh Khan's father, Mir Taj Muhammad Khan. Moreover, SRK also time and again interacts with the acid attack survivors and get to know what's going on in their lives. He even indulges in fun conversation to keep the mood light.
मैंने आपके नाम का सर आपका फोटो भी बनाया है सर अपने हाथ पर.
कहाँ पे दिखा मुझे?
ये कोई और हीरो तो नहीं लग रहा, मैं ही लग रहा हूँ ना।
सर आपका नाम भी लिखा है उसने।
सोनिया आपकी शादी हो गई?
हेलो, थैंक यू सर। जी
कंग्रेचुलेशन सोनिया। थोड़ा सा मेरा इंतजार कर, लेकिन मैं कर लेता यार।
आप आगे आए और एसिड अटैक सर्वाइवर्स के लिए एक मिसाल कायम कर रहे हैं, उनका सर्जरी करा रहे हैं। अगर आप न होते तो पता नहीं कितने सर्वाइवर्स का इलाज ना हो पाता।
What's more, even when the world went through the complete shutdown and was hit by the pandemic in 2020, SRK was one of the first few celebrities to announce a series of initiatives to help Government of India battle against the COVID-19.
Weather forecast now. Delhi, maximum 39 and minimum 29 degrees. Mumbai, maximum 31 and minimum 26 degrees. Kolkata, maximum 36 and minimum 28 degrees. Bangalore, maximum 29 and minimum 24 degrees. Chennai, maximum 34 and minimum 25 degrees. Hyderabad, maximum 32 and minimum 23 degrees.
Hello and welcome. It's the biggest political news break of the moment. The government likely to bring a bill on one nation, one election in a specially convened session of Parliament from the 18th to the 22nd of December. Does this mean that general elections could potentially get advanced? Or could assembly elections due at the end of this year get pushed to happen along with the general election cycle? All kinds of questions, permutations, combinations floating in the air in the capital. We'll try and decode for you what can and cannot happen, what's likely, what's unlikely, and how this massive decision, if indeed the government does push it through on the 18th of September, how is it likely to play out? All that and more on the News Strike.
Biggest political news break of 2023. Parliament special session scoop. Modi government to bring crucial bill. One nation, one election bill likely. Is India ready? Big focus on News Track.
All kinds of theories are doing the rounds in the political winds of the country. Some of them are probable, some of them highly improbable. We'll try and sift fact from fiction. It's the biggest political news break of 2021, which could have massive consequences on the election cycle from here. The Modi government has called a special 5-day parliament session in September. Crucial legislations are likely to be brought in. India Today has exclusively learned that the government is likely to bring in the One Nation, One Election bill. Under the One Nation, One Election bill, elections to the Lok Sabha and all state assemblies will be held in one single cycle. This idea has been mooted several times previously and has been studied in detail by the Law Commission of India. Bills on the Uniform Civil Code and the Women's Reservation Bill are also likely to be introduced in the special session of Parliament called from the 18th to the 22nd of September.
इंडिया गठबंधन बनने के बाद भारतीय जनता पार्टी और नरेंद्र मोदी जी बुरी तरीके से बौखलाए हुए हैं और 3 राज्यों का चुनाव है। वो तीनों राज्यों के चुनाव बुरी तरीके से बीजेपी हारने जा रही है, जिसके कारण ये वन नेशन वन इलेक्शन की बात उन्होंने शुरू की है, चलाई जा रही है ये बात। दूसरा ये है कि ये चुनाव पहले कराना चाहते हैं और इनके अंदर घबराहट है साफ तौर पे। इंडिया गठबंधन से बौखलाहट, घबराहट का नतीजा है ये जो वन नेशन वन इलेक्शन की बात की जा रही है। और 3 राज्य के जो चुनाव हैं वो बहुत महत्वपूर्ण चुनाव है, वो बीजेपी हारने जा रही है।
वन नेशन वन इलेक्शन की तो बगैर हम राय मशवरा कर बगैर सारे स्टेक होल्डर्स से पूछकर, बगैर इलेक्शन कमीशन की रिपोर्ट लेकर, बगैर उनसे ये पूछकर कि ये पॉसिबल है या नहीं पॉसिबल है, बगैर वो सिक्योरिटी सर्विसेज से पूछ करके इतना हम कर पाएंगे कि नहीं कर पाएंगे एट द सेम टाइम, बगैर उन स्टेट गवर्नमेंट से पूछकर कि क्या वो सहमत है या नहीं सहमत है, बगैर चीफ मिनिस्टर्स को साथ में लेकर अगर वो ये निर्णय लेते हैं हम उसका विरोध करेंगे। तिलमिलाई हुई, घबराई हुई एंड लास्ट स्टेजेस ऑफ पावर में अपना पावर दिखाने की कोशिश करें, हम उसका विरोध करेंगे।
साथियों, एक और विषय है और वो भी इतना ही महत्वपूर्ण है, वो चुनावों का। वन नेशन वन इलेक्शन सिर्फ एक चर्चा का विषय नहीं है, बल्कि ये भारत की जरूरत है। हर कुछ महीने में भारत में कहीं न कहीं बड़े चुनाव हो रहे होते हैं। इससे विकास के कार्यों पर जो प्रभाव पड़ता है उसे आप सब भली भांति जानते हैं। ऐसे में वन नेशन वन इलेक्शन पर गहन अध्ययन और मंथन आवश्यक है।
जो राज्यों में चुनाव होने वाले हैं, 8 कुछ राज्यों में चुनाव होने वाले हैं, बहुत से लोग कहते हैं कि ये बार बार जो चुनाव होते हैं, मतलब अब 12 महीने में 8 राज्यों में अगर चुनाव होंगे तो एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, रनिंग द कंट्री, ये सब बैकसीट ले जाए, सिर्फ इलेक्शन कैंपेन ही चलता रहता है।
इसके लिए प्रधानमंत्री जी ने पंचायत से पार्लियामेंट के चुनाव एक साथ कराने का एक विचार देश की जनता के सामने रखा है, सभी दलों के सामने भी रखा है, पार्लियामेंट में भी उन्होंने बोला है और मैं मानता हूं कि समय आ गया है कि इस पर विचार होना चाहिए।
पर कब होगा ये? मतलब अब
देखिए, इसमें सबसे चर्चा तो करनी ही पड़ेगी, सबसे चर्चा कर ही ये हो सकता है, मगर प्रधानमंत्री जी के विचार रखते ही एक बहस तो छिड़ गई है। सब लोगों को लगता है कि हर साल चुनाव होना, हर महीने चुनाव होना, वो लोकतंत्र के लिए भी ठीक नहीं। इसका एक ही समय निश्चित कर लिया जाए।
Multiple perspectives and comments coming in on this big decision of the Modi government to call this special session of Parliament to talk about the One Nation, One Election bill. I'm joined on this broadcast by S.Y. Qureshi, highly well-regarded former Chief Election Commissioner of India. He's joining me on the news track. Mr. Qureshi, welcome. As a man who's led the Indian election process, can you begin by giving our viewers a sense of whether this is possible, if indeed between the 18th and the 22nd of September this bill is brought and somehow the government cobbles the 2/3 majority required both in the Rajya Sabha and in the Lok Sabha to pass this through? What does this mean? If you were CEC tonight, what would you be thinking?
Well, I don't think CEC has much role in it. The role is of the Parliament and the Constitution, because it has to be amended, as you rightly said, because the Constitution has fixed the term of the Houses and of Lok Sabha as 5 years. That this term cannot be extended by a day and cannot be curtailed except up to 6 months at the discretion of the Election Commission, just to hold simultaneous election with a major election which is going on at that time, or 4 or 5 states going at the same time. The result in one state may affect the result in another. That's why the elections are clubbed. And traditionally, this has been happening for the 7 decades, and it has functioned pretty all right. The one nation, one election sounds good. So tomorrow it will be one nation, one political party. That also sounds good. Why not one nation, one leader? That also sounds great. So therefore, one nation, and using the word nation to create this kind of nationalism is fine, but then how will you do it? Now, to achieve simultaneous election, you'll have to extend the term of some and reduce the term of some other state, which is not possible. How will you do it?
What if it happens in a graded fashion? The most immediate set of elections are Telangana, you've got Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh, Mizoram. So either you bring the general elections forward and do it in conjunction with this round of assembly elections, or you push these assembly elections till April, May next year and do these assembly elections with the general elections? Which one of the two is more likely according to you and why?
No. Second option is not available at all. The term of an existing house cannot be extended by 1 day.
Can't they put president's rule and extend it by 6 months?
Yeah, you can have president rule and extend it. Yeah, that is true. The other is, at least in any case, these 3-4 states which you mentioned, they in the past they have been held simultaneously, and this time also they can be held simultaneously, but there will only be 4-5 states. Second, Lok Sabha can be dissolved and these elections, 4 states and Lok Sabha can go together. But that is not exactly the simultaneous election that we are talking about. Simultaneous election of the whole country is what has been on the table.
But it can happen in grades. So you do one part of it right now and then you collapse more elections in the years to come, and in a 5-year cycle you bring it into a one nation, one election cycle without massive disruption. So there is some disruption, but not a magnitude of disruption which is uncontrollable.
Correct, Rahul, that is right. But this was the debate which happened in 2014. And when Niti Aayog came up with this solution, there was a parliamentary committee which first discussed it. And they said, okay, if you can't do it all elections in 5 years. Remember, the Prime Minister at that time in 2013 had talked of simultaneous election of all 3 tiers, the Panchayat, the Lok Sabha, the Vidhan Sabha and the Lok Sabha. Later on, it got diluted and diluted and diluted. Nobody talked of Panchayat. Then parliamentary committee said, all right, do it in 2.5 years. The similar recommendation came from Niti Aayog, but that happened in 2014 and 15. What you are saying has been on the table for the last so many years. And but that is dilution. Then what purpose will it achieve? What moral authority is left in the proposal? If simultaneous election is very fine, when how many lakhs, 30 lakh sarpanches and then MLAs and MPs together, that's fine. But if
how much of a logistical challenge is it? If, for example, all the assembly and state elections happen together, I assume you'd need double the VVPATs. So is it basically double the effort? Like, would they be readily available?
Yeah. No. From the point of view of election management, this is the easiest thing to do because the voter is the same for all 3 tiers. The polling, the election machinery is the same, the district administration. The polling stations are the same, as you know, and the security apparatus is also the same. So, from the point of view election commission and management, this is the easiest thing and most convenient thing to do. We do elections once in 5 years and play golf for the next 5. Best thing to happen to us, right? But it's not possible. Election commission is appointed to conduct elections and not to postpone elections. Therefore, now logistically, good question you ask. All probably that we will need is 3 times the EVMs. For instance, once you recycle the EVM, the same machine is used for Lok Sabha election.
How long does it take to produce these EVMs? Can it be done in time for this election cycle? I'm just curious.
I doubt it because this time is too short. This time is too short because 3 times means at the moment we have a reserve of about 20 lakh machines, 2 million. Now we have to.
How many do you need for a general election?
These 2 million, 20 lakhs are enough because we need for one general election and recycle them for the state
otherwise
election.
You need 6 million EVMs.
Yeah, then you need 6 million. Yes.
Is it manufactured only in one place or are they manufactured by many manufacturers?
No, only 2 places.
How much is their capacity?
I don't think they can produce 40 lakh machines in 6 months or 1 year. It will surely take longer than that.
Unless, of course, they've been producing them over the past several months and we didn't know about it, but that's a different matter. But interesting perspectives there from S.Y. Qureshi. I want to thank you for your time. You've pointed out what can be done. You've raised questions about what is difficult to be achieved. I just want to take our viewers through some of the occasions when a special session of Parliament has been called. 1992 August, 50th anniversary of the Quit India or the Bharat Chodo movement. Special session in 1997 on the occasion of the Golden Jubilee of India's independence. 26 November 2015, 125th birth anniversary of B.R. Ambedkar. 2017 June 30th when the Modi government brought the GST, the goods and services tax. So this isn't common. The fact that a special session is happening between the 18th and the 22nd, that we know because the Parliamentary Affairs Minister Prahlad Joshi tweeted about it. Now what this specifically entails and who this benefits or doesn't benefit is up for questions. Joining me on this broadcast at this time, I want a whole cross-section of perspectives. So let me welcome RP Singh from the BJP. Rajat Sethi joins us, political analyst. Rahul Verma is with us from the Centre for Policy Research. And with us is one of India's leading psephologists, co-director at Lokniti, Dr. Sanjay Kumar. RP Singh, let me start with you. What is this googly you've just bowled? Everyone was getting set for the G20 from the 8th, the 9th and the 10th. Suddenly, you've got everyone wondering, I'm sure including yourself, will there be a general election sooner? What's going on?
Well, it's your guess or my guess. I mean, we don't know what the session is about. The Parliamentary Affairs Minister has not declared still the details of the session. He just said this special session. And obviously, when the session is called, the agenda will be discussed with the opposition also. And then all parties put together decide on the agenda of the Parliament. It's not just one party who decides. And if I go by what you are saying, that one nation, one election, then there has to be a cabinet meeting also for that to approve the one nation, one election. So I really don't know, because the indications are there with the media, but not with us. And then I don't see anything of that sort as far the processes of the democracy goes, that there is some preparedness or readiness for that. But yes, one nation, one election is a welcome thing, which should be welcomed by all. If process can start, if consultancy can start, if people can come on board, if political parties can come on board, nothing better than that. Because it give me a second, because it would help us to perform better, and with any government to perform better without their work which they are doing, and also it will save a lot of money and sort of a lot of energy and a lot of chaos also. So it's better if it can be done. And
okay,
as Prime Minister
Rahul
said, from
Verma, there's
Panchayat
so
to
many
Parliament.
different theories doing the round. One is that the BJP is in for rough weather in the assembly elections, which are due in November, December. Rajasthan is the one state where the BJP seems to be in front, but even there, because of Vasundhara Raje not being fully on board, the situation is tricky. Chhattisgarh seems to be a lost cause, the Congress clearly ahead. Madhya Pradesh also, the Congress with a narrower margin seems to have its nose ahead. In Telangana, the BJP's vote share, seat share, according to the polling data, has come down. The Congress has bounced up. It's 1-2 between Congress and BRS. Because of all of this, the conspiracy theory goes that they don't want the assembly elections to happen. And if they happen along with the Lok Sabha elections, because Prime Minister Modi is so popular, the BJP gets a tailwind. What's your reading of the political state of play? Who could this benefit? Who could this hurt?
The session, or see,
if one nation, one election is indeed brought at this time, who does it help? Who does it hurt?
It's hard to predict who will it hurt or benefit. Of course, if BJP is going to bring in this legislation, they have some calculation that given the Prime Minister's popularity, this may end up helping them in the short run. In the medium to long run, we don't know. And I think, as you rightly pointed out, Rahul, at the moment it looks like more of a conspiracy theory than a real thing for multiple reasons. Even if BJP seems to be trailing in all these 4 elections, I don't think there is any serious conversation within the party about advancing the elections by 6 months. I don't think Prime Minister Modi is going to do that. Second, as S.Y. Qureshi pointed out, that you can't extend these like by a day, right? Like the House cannot be extended by a day for these 4 states. And you can't just bring in President's rule, right? You will have to actually, President's rule can also be brought under certain circumstances. When the government recommends that there is a constitutional crisis in the state, only then President's rule can be brought in. So it's not easy at this point of time to basically either move these 4 state assembly elections and have it with Lok Sabha elections in May, or advance the Lok Sabha elections. I think maybe the government starts a conversation on one nation, one election or UCC. Both these would be just conversations.
Okay. So that's an important point you're making. You're basically just floating the balloon, like you did with the UCC, bring it in Uttarakhand, bring it in some of the other states, and then build it up. So it's one of the issues then which you're trying to generate conversation around. I want to go across to Mumbai. Joining us from there is Rajdeep Sardesai. He's tracking the big India meeting, speaking to a cross-section of opposition leaders. Rajdeep, we were all building up for the big G20 summit. I was interviewing Fareed Zakaria and the whole conversation was on geopolitics. The geo went out of the window. We're now only down to the politics. What's been the reaction in the India alliance after this announcement that a one nation, one election bill could be on the anvil on the 18th of September?
Rahul, two things. First of all, there is no announcement. This is source-based, number one. Number two, this is a talking point in my view. I don't think this is a serious attempt to try and push through the legislation of one nation, one election. It's a very complicated, complex issue where there are various stakeholders, including regional parties who are allied to the BJP, as well as state governments. Remember, a dozen state governments are not BJP-ruled states. I see it as a bit of a red herring. I do believe that Mr. Modi is using this session to make 2 points. One, his image, his stature enhanced in the backdrop of Chandrayaan and G20. It will be used by the treasury benches to push Mr. Modi's image. Unlike the previous monsoon session where the no confidence motion, the opposition targeted Mr. Modi on Manipur, this will be seen as a session where Mr. Modi and the BJP would like to set the narrative of being a strong leader who's giving India a global image. The GDP figure numbers are good today. I expect and we expect before the festive season, not just the LPG cut that took place 2 days ago, but also possibly a petrol diesel duty cut. Look, Mr. Modi wants to set the narrative and he will use this session to set the narrative amid speculation that this could be an early election. I agree with Rahul Verma. My experience of having discussed this issue with Mr. Modi is very clear. Atal Bihari Vajpayee made a big mistake by going in for an early election in 2004. That's a bad thing to do for whoever is in power. When you're in power, you use the instruments of power to your best ability. There's talk that in that session, he may even float the idea of a women's reservation bill. If not in September, then in November, December. Look, Mr. Modi believes he has a bag of arrows with him while he is in power. Also, while the India alliance still doesn't have an agenda set, he can constantly set the agenda. A lot of this also, Rahul, remember, happened on a day when in the morning the Adani revelations came in and the opposition looked like they were going to set the agenda. This is how Mr. Modi plays his politics. I sense that Mr. Modi wants to set the narrative early before the India alliance can get its act together. Hence this session being called where the Prime Minister will be the central figure. He wants to make 2024 a leadership contest. He will use this session to try and project himself as the supreme leader.
You know, but when you throw too many balls up in the air, you also need to be able to collect them. You know, you've got the Ram Temple, you've got the UCC, you've got one nation, one election. All of this, especially one nation, one election, will have a counter reaction from other parties. For example, would Naveen Patnaik or a Jagan Reddy who've been on the margins supporting the BJP government and all crucial opportunities be as enthusiastic about one nation, one election? Because, you know, does it necessarily suit them? Just inadvertently, in any case, Orissa and Andhra Pradesh happen to go to elections when the general elections happen. But there are lots of boards, lots of pieces on the board which will have to be realigned once this goes in. For example, you mentioned the women's reservation bill. So far, the RJD and the SP are part of the India alliance. If the women's reservation bill were to be brought, the RJD and the SP will have their own view on it and could split the India alliance down the middle.
But you see, Rahul, this is about agenda setting. 1 month ago or 2 months ago, the government floated uniform civil code. And then they saw it, they weren't getting traction. I'm told the internal survey showed it may be getting traction within the core BJP vote, but there were concerns over whether in tribal areas and other areas, once you dissected the bill, whether it would get the same traction. It was done in a sense to offset the opposition's attempt to push Manipur. Now you've got a situation where the Prime Minister believes he's got a window of opportunity before you get into real state election mode, that's October, November, December, to try and push in these other trial balloons, women's reservation, one nation, one election. Give the impression that you're constantly doing something new. That's been the way Mr. Modi does his politics. I keep maintaining, I don't think the opposition recognizes the kind of political animal they are confronting. Mr. Modi is a politician with whom you can expect the unexpected. He will constantly be seen to be doing things to push the opposition on the defensive. Hence, he is throwing this idea of a special session where he hopes to, after what happened in the no confidence motion, where the government was for a large part on the defensive on Manipur, can he now be on the aggressive with Chandrayaan, with G20, with a decent GDP growth rate figures coming in, suggest that India is a nation on the move and give a more positive signaling ahead of the festive season. That's my sense of the man. I could be proven horribly wrong and he could surprise us by saying I'm going in for a snap poll, but I would be very surprised if that really happens.
Okay, thank you very much, Rajdeep, for joining us. Rajdeep will have more when he comes on with News Today at 9. I want to go across to Rajat Sethi, who understands the inner workings of the current BJP. Rajat, what's your reading of, forget what happens ultimately, because that's not known for sure. If one nation, one election is brought in on the 18th of September, what would be the inner thinking in the BJP at the moment?
Well, I think if you were to go by this hypothesis that one nation, one election has to be implemented, then there is no other way other than the national election getting preempted. There could be multiple explanations for that as well. One explanation could be that several state elections are anyway going to polls, and doing it alongside the national election might rub off the goodwill that Prime Minister Modi carries on.
But this cuts both ways. Also, the other theory is that just 1 second, Rajat. Last time, when the BJP lost in Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan and Chhattisgarh, a lot of the anti-incumbency that had got built against the BJP locally got washed out when they lost those assembly elections. It gave the BJP and Prime Minister Modi a clean slate in time for the Lok Sabha election. So that same theory cuts both ways.
Well, in my opinion, when a party is going for national elections, it would be largely in and around the national figures, which would be that of Prime Minister Modi. The local anti-incumbency would fade away in that light, because that suddenly changes the game. Also, remember, there are important states where the governments aren't pretty stable. Look at Maharashtra, for example. Look at other similar states which might, want to en masse resign and ensure that they all go together with the national election. So if that hypothetical situation is in the realm of possibility, then I believe that few more states will join the bandwagon and would want to go for, at least if we see a healthy mix of 5, 6, 7 additional states come together. We can have Jammu Kashmir, by the way, which might also go preemptively along with the national elections. So if there is a solid a number of states, one nation, two elections can also be within the realm of possibility, if not all the states coming together in one go.
Okay, you can do it gradually and in stages rather than trying to do it all at once. I want to go across for a psephological perspective to Dr. Sanjay Kumar as I welcome Vikas Singh, who's come in a very bright shirt. So give me, Mr. Singh, just a moment to come to you. I want to go to Sanjay Kumar first on psephologically, and if you look at the arithmetic of the elections, if this round of assembly elections was held in conjunction with the Lok Sabha elections, does it really help the BJP enough to want to make such a big change?
It certainly helps the BJP, Rahul, and why I say that, there is a clear evidence. I have analyzed data over a period of time, looked at all the elections which are held simultaneously, in a sense, state assembly election which has been held along with the Lok Sabha elections, and also state assembly elections which are not held along with the Lok Sabha elections. And there is a clear difference. The bigger national party, whichever party is in power at that moment, or the party which is dominant party at the moment, stands to gain even in a state assembly election, when state assembly election are held along with the Lok Sabha election. And when you hold the assembly elections, say 6 months away from the Lok Sabha election, whether it is before or after, the impact of that bigger national party goes down. So, and this is the data which I have analyzed, which I have put it out in public domain. It's published in the book. So going by that trend in the past, I think if state assembly elections of this round are held along with the Lok Sabha election, BJP certainly stands to gain. To what extent? Very difficult to predict at this moment.
No, but the counter to that is that there is a certain level of anti-incumbency which is only natural to build after say 18 years of being in power in Madhya Pradesh, after 9 years of being in power at the centre, that could get washed out in the assembly elections. If you go and do the state assembly elections and the Lok Sabha elections at the same time, you are going into the polls facing double anti-incumbency.
Yes, there are both the theories can be floated, but my own sense is that when you hold the Lok Sabha elections together, Prime Minister Modi is on the forefront. Prime Minister Modi's campaign, his face will be on the forefront. I am not saying that in the state assembly election his face will be not on the forefront. Even in the state assembly election, whether it is Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh or any other state, BJP will take the advantage of using Prime Minister's face. But remember, there is a chief minister in the state. Madhya Pradesh, the chief minister has been in power. BJP is chief minister for last 18-19 years. So it becomes important for the state, for the BJP to also use chief minister's face. If you hold the Lok Sabha and the state assembly elections together, I think Prime Minister Modi's impact would be so high that it would be able to contain to a great extent if there is any anti-incumbency against the state government. That's my reading.
Okay, it could definitely help in a state like Telangana, where as of now, because of Karnataka and everything that's happened since the Congress seems to be in the ascendant, you make the Lok Sabha and the assembly elections happen together, suddenly BJP is a stronger force than it would be. So we'll build on the politics, but I want to go for a legal perspective to Vikas Singh. I love the color of your shirt and how bright you are, so nicely done there. Because can you explain to our viewers what this requires legally? From what I gather, it requires a constitutional amendment which will require 2/3 majority, at least 5 articles of the Constitution, Article 83, Article 85, 172, 174, 356 need to be changed, which have different aspects of how elections are held and how soon you can call the next election. What would this entail from a legal point of view?
So, Rahul, you're right, 83 will have to be amended, 172 will have to be amended.
So 83 is the term of the Lok Sabha will be 5 years from the first date of sitting. 172, which you mentioned, is Legislative Assembly will be 5 years from the date of sitting. But go on.
So both these articles talk of unless earlier dissolved. So it will have that unless earlier dissolved will have to be, deleted. And it will have to provide for a fixed term. And it will also have to say that there'll be a first term which will be specified, which will probably have to be 24. That on 24 all the elections will happen and then they'll all go on for 5 years. But the real, working of this will happen by the amendment to the anti-defection law. Because the moment you have a weak anti-defection law which permits a person to resign, so defect from a particular political party and lose his seat and come back into the same assembly or the same Lok Sabha. So that disqualification is not qualified as to what is the disqualification. Unlike in the disqualification for a criminal, offence, there is a 6-year period specified for any conviction for more than 2 years. Here, the disqualification doesn't say that this disqualification will be for 1 day or for 1 year or 5 years or 6 years. According to me, and it has been according to me wrongly interpreted by the Supreme Court, that you can come back to the same assembly or the same parliament after having been disqualified for having...
No, so if there's one election, one nation, for whatever reason, take Madhya Pradesh, Scindia left, the government came into minority, now the Madhya Pradesh government of Kamal Nath is no longer in majority. What happens then? Is there president's rule for 2.5 years? Do they have elections midterm? No. If they have elections midterm, then what happens to the idea of one nation, one election?
So when you talk of the no confidence motion, the Law Commission in its recommendation has suggested that there will be not a no confidence motion, but there will be an alternative expression of giving confidence in somebody else. So it will not be a no confidence simpliciter. The no confidence will have to have a positive recommendation for some other alignment to take over in place of the government being shunted out. So it can't be a simpliciter no confidence. So if there is a no confidence motion and if there is no alternative, then there's no confidence.
No, so apart from 2/3 majority in the Rajya Sabha and the Lok Sabha, from what I gather, this also needs to go to the states, and half the states at least need to approve this, because many of the states aren't BJP run. Why would a state like Karnataka, where Siddaramaiah and Shiv Kumar just came to power, or West Bengal under Mamata Banerjee, which won a very tough election. Why would they ever agree to this?
According to me, Rahul, it doesn't require to go to the assemblies, because that is only if it is part 4 of, part 5 of chapter 4 or part 6 of chapter 5 and chapter 1 of part 11. So only in these parts of the constitution you require to go to the assembly.
So you're saying they can bring this law, it will be law, it doesn't need to go to the states?
It doesn't need to go to the
That's
states.
your reading, because I've heard that they do need to go to the states.
No, I don't think so, because the requirement of going to the states is only for certain articles when they need to be amended, and 83 and 172 are not included in those. And the moment you provide for a fixed term in those 2 articles and say that there can't be any dissolution of the assembly or the parliament in between, then that I think should seal the issue, which will not require these. So 2-3 things. So one will be the anti-defection law to be amended. The second will be that there will be no confidence motion. It will have to be always a no confidence motion along with a confidence motion. And thirdly, these articles will have to specify a fixed term. And once the fixed term is specified and the record date is set, that 2024 will be the first election, then thereafter every 5 years, 29 and 34, etc., the election to the entire country will be held. That, according to me, is the way forward as far as doing this is concerned constitutionally.
Okay, thanks Vikas Singh for joining us. Do also keep in mind that this could be the initiation of the conversation in Parliament. So you introduce the bill, say that we want that there be a debate, and that we realize that we may not be able to push it through just at this moment, but that's where we are going. So thinking about 2028-29, could that be the direction? Because you can't make such big change happen all at the same time. I want to get a quick final word from Rahul Verma. A lot of the parties in Parliament, especially in the Rajya Sabha, which have been supporting the BJP, are they likely to stick along with the BJP? Because on matters which aren't of personal interest, the likes of Jagan Reddy may weigh in on the side of the BJP, but if it's a matter which concerns his own personal and political interest, he'll think about it 10 times over.
Absolutely. And so far, we haven't heard many of these parties, especially the state level parties, on what their opinion on one nation, one election is. And the likelihood of a party like YSRCP or BJP going with BJP on this bill is very low. And even then, like, my position at the moment is that I don't think government is serious about bringing one nation, one election.
RP Singh, the charge that we are hearing from the India Alliance, the likes of Omar Abdullah and the others tweeting essentially to say that because the Adani story was in the headlines, because Rahul Gandhi did that big press conference, therefore you floated this trial balloon to get the attention away from a story which puts you in the dock.
Well, will you leave a story because of this? No, you're not going to. The media is not going to leave any story for that regard. But every media will pursue whatever is important for the nation. But as far as Adani's story goes, I have other side to say that. Rahul Gandhi wanted to take a lead from the complete INDA group, so he did what he did. I mean, he repeated what he repeated. But fact is that we also are not aware, because all political parties will be taken on board before the agenda is brought to the parliament, and then everything will discuss with all political parties, and then the agenda will be there in front of them. So let's wait for that time.
Okay, Sanjay Kumar, final words. How could this impact some of the assembly elections? Because see, one is to do this when Prime Minister Modi is around, and therefore naturally you've got this big banyan tree, you can provide shade to some of the other states, save them from the sun of anti-incumbency, and therefore get them over the hump in a state like Haryana, which would otherwise be tricky, but it kind of goes through because of the Modi wave. But once a change of this kind is made, it stays forever. So it's not a short-term here and now change. Till the mid-60s, Indian elections used to be held at the same time. Then because, governments started getting dissolved ahead of time, the whole process went all right. But that's the way it used to be after independence till the mid-60s.
No, Rahul, I think as an idea, it looks very fancy. If you talk to the common people will also like the idea, and they would say, yes, there's no harm in doing that. But there are lots and lots of practical difficulties, which we have been talking about. Like what do you do if there is a early dissolution of assembly? If the government of any state has not been able to survive for 5 years, what do you do? Do you want to keep that house suspended for another 4.5 years or another 3 years? So I think there are lots and lots of legal problems, lots and lots of practical difficulties. So this kind of a law, personally, I don't think is going to be fruitful. You can't force all the state assembly elections to be held together. My personal view is that, and I have been saying this in previous rounds of such discussion, you could think of, like timing of election. Like we know that in the October month, there is a festival which comes, Dussehra and Diwali. You could think of months in a year. This is the time when, even if the assembly of a state has been dissolved in the month of February, but November is the month or October is the month when you are going to hold election. Club all these elections which is to be held in 1 year, because at the moment what happens, one elections take place in the month of February, then you have an election in July, and then you have